Sarah Matthews organized the final reports on her desk, glancing at the small digital frame displaying a photo of her daughter Emma. 5 o'clock was approaching on Christmas Eve, and Sarah had been at work since dawn, determined to complete everything before requesting to leave just 1 hour early. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, straightening her blazer before walking toward the executive office. The Horizon Enterprises holiday party echoed from the conference room, but Sarah hadn't attended. Instead, she'd finished the quarterly projections Richard Blackwood had demanded by tomorrow. She knocked on the CEO's door, entering when she heard his gruff acknowledgement. "Mr. Blackwood, I've completed the year-end reports and left them on your desk. I was hoping I could leave at 5 today to attend my daughter's Christmas program." Richard looked up, his expression hardening. "On Christmas Eve, when everyone's scrambling to close the year?" "I've been here since 6 a.m., sir. Everything's complete, including the Henderson account you wanted for January." "That's the bare minimum of your job, Sarah." He stood up, walking around his desk. "Everyone wants special treatment during the holidays. Do you think clients care about your personal schedule?" "No, sir. But the program only happens once, and Emma has a solo. If your priorities are elsewhere, perhaps this isn't the right environment for you." His voice rose deliberately, causing heads to turn from nearby cubicles. "I've never left early before. I've worked weekends and stayed late countless times. And now you're keeping track? That's disappointing." Richard crossed his arms. "Horizon needs employees who understand sacrifice, not those counting hours or expecting special treatment." Sarah felt her face flush as colleagues pretended not to listen. "Sir, I'm not asking for special. I think we've reached a breaking point, Sarah. Your performance has been marginal for months, and this attitude confirms my concerns." Sarah froze. "Marginal? My performance reviews have all been excellent." "Reviews can be subjective, and frankly, I've been too generous." Richard returned to his chair. "I believe it's time we part ways. Security will escort you out." "You're firing me? On Christmas Eve?" "Consider it a mutual recognition that your priorities lie elsewhere. No need for drama." 20 minutes later, Sarah placed her belongings in a cardboard box, framed photos of Emma, thank you notes from grateful colleagues, even the small plant she'd nurtured for years. Diane from accounting slipped her a sympathetic note, while others avoided eye contact, fearing similar treatment. The security guard, Mike, apologized quietly. "For what it's worth, everyone knows you're the backbone of this place." Outside, snow fell gently on her shoulders as she placed the box in her car. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from the school. She'd missed Emma's performance. Tears threatened, but Sarah took a deep breath, refusing to let them fall. "Emma will never see me cry over this," she resolved, starting her car. "Tomorrow is still Christmas, and nothing will take that from us." She drove away from Horizon Enterprises, unaware that tomorrow would bring an opportunity beyond anything she could imagine. Christmas morning arrived with Emma's excited squeals filling their modest apartment. Sarah had stayed up wrapping presents after her daughter fell asleep, determined that yesterday's disaster wouldn't ruin today's joy. "Mom, it's exactly what I wanted." Emma clutched the science kit to her chest. "Can we build the solar system?" "Model right now?" Sarah smiled, pushing aside thoughts of unpaid bills. "Of course, sweetie. Christmas is for making memories." While Emma sorted the colorful planets on their living room floor, Sarah reached for her work bag to find her phone charger. Her fingers brushed against an unfamiliar, thick envelope. Strange. She'd emptied her bag last night. "What's this?" she murmured, pulling out a cream-colored envelope with elegant handwriting. It was addressed simply to Sarah Matthews, executive assistant. Inside was a letter on premium stationery with the Horizon logo embossed in gold at the top. Sarah's hands trembled as she read, "Dear Ms. Matthews, I'm Eleanor Williams, founder and majority shareholder of Horizon Enterprises. Though we've never met, I've been monitoring the company remotely during my extended sabbatical. Your work has caught my attention repeatedly. Those innovative supply chain modifications presented last quarter. I know they were your suggestions, though others claimed credit. Your employee satisfaction initiatives? I've seen the memo drafts with your name before they were rebranded. I'm returning to take a more active role in Horizon's leadership. The company has lost its way, focused on profit at the expense of people, the opposite of my founding vision. I'd like to meet on January 2nd to discuss my restructuring plans, which include positioning you for the CEO role. Your understanding of both operations and people makes you ideal for leading Horizon back to its core values. Please keep this confidential until we meet. Sincerely, Eleanor Williams. Sarah read the letter twice, certain she'd misunderstood. Her? CEO? It seemed impossible. Her phone rang with an unknown number. Hello, this is Sarah Matthews. Ms. Matthews, this is Eleanor Williams. The voice was firm, but warm. I've just learned about yesterday's events from my assistant, who attended the holiday gathering. Richard had no authority to terminate you, especially given our pending meeting. You're really Eleanor Williams? I just found your letter. Indeed. I am. Richard's behavior is the final confirmation that change is urgently needed. Instead of waiting until January, would you be available to meet tomorrow morning at my home? We have much to discuss. Yes, Sarah said, surprising herself with her steadiness. I can be there. Excellent. My driver will collect you at 9 a.m. And Sarah? What Richard saw as expendable, I see as essential. Remember that. After hanging up, Sarah watched Emma arranging planets in perfect orbital order. Sometimes, the universe had its own way of rearranging things, and perhaps tomorrow would bring an alignment she never could have imagined. The elegant townhouse where Eleanor Williams resided spoke of refined taste rather than ostentatious wealth. Sarah adjusted her blazer nervously as the housekeeper led her to a bright sunroom where a silver-haired woman stood examining documents. Ms. Matthews, welcome. Eleanor extended her hand, her grip firm despite her 70-plus years. I've looked forward to meeting you in person. Thank you for inviting me, Mrs. Williams. I'm still trying to process everything. Eleanor gestured to a seating area where tea waited. I founded Horizon 40 years ago with a simple philosophy: profit with purpose, innovation with integrity. Under Richard Blackwood's leadership, that vision has eroded. He's certainly focused on quarterly earnings, Sarah offered carefully, at the expense of everything else. Eleanor passed Sarah a folder. Employee turnover has doubled. Client satisfaction scores are at a 10-year low. 3 key innovations were rejected because they required initial investment. This isn't the company I built. Sarah reviewed the documents, recognizing the patterns she'd observed from her position. I've seen these issues, but I had no authority to address them. Yet you tried anyway. That strategic client retention program you proposed last March? Richard claimed it as his own, but I saw the original memo with your name. Sarah looked up in surprise. How did you know about that? I may have stepped back from daily operations, but I never stopped watching my company. Eleanor's eyes twinkled. I have allies who keep me informed. But Mrs. Williams, I don't have executive experience. I've never even held a management position. Call me Eleanor, please, and tell me, what makes a good leader? Sarah considered the question. Someone who listens before deciding. Who values people and their contributions. Who has vision but remains practical about implementation. Exactly. You just described yourself. Eleanor leaned forward. When I started Horizon, I had no executive experience either. I had intelligence, empathy, and strategic thinking, the same qualities I see in you. Richard's allies on the board will resist this change. Undoubtedly, but I hold controlling interest, and I've already spoken with key board members. We need to prepare you for the resistance you'll face. Eleanor outlined a strategic approach for Sarah's return, coaching her on handling objections and establishing authority. Your knowledge of operations gives you an advantage. You understand how every department functions because you've supported them all. As their meeting concluded, Eleanor placed a hand on Sarah's arm. The people who underestimate you give you your greatest power. Let them. Their surprise will be your advantage. Driving home, Sarah felt a strength she hadn't known in years. When Emma ran to greet her, Sarah lifted her daughter in a spin. "What happened, Mom? You look different." "We have something to celebrate, sweetheart. Mommy has a new job, and it's going to change everything." Sarah wore her most professional outfit as she approached the Horizon Enterprises building the day after Christmas. The outfit wasn't new, but she carried herself with new purpose. Eleanor's driver had delivered a package that morning containing official documents naming Sarah as interim CEO, pending board approval. Now, walking through the front doors instead of being escorted out of them, Sarah felt both terrified and resolute. Ms. Matthews, the security guard who had escorted her out just 2 days ago, looked confused. "I thought, things have changed, Mike. I have a meeting with Mr. Blackwood." Eleanor Williams waited in the lobby with 2 board members, Judith Chen, head of the audit committee, and Robert Grayson, the longest-serving director. "Ready?" Eleanor asked. Sarah nodded. "Ready." They entered the elevator together, the board members watching Sarah with curious expressions. "Ms. Williams has spoken highly of your capabilities," Ms. Chen said. "I look forward to seeing them demonstrated." The executive floor was quiet, with only essential personnel working the day after. "Christmas," Richard's assistant gasped when she saw Sarah. "Go right in," Eleanor instructed, not waiting for the assistant to announce them. Richard was on a call, feet propped on his desk. His expression shifted from annoyance to shock when he saw the group. "I'll call back," he said abruptly, hanging up. "Eleanor, what is the meaning of this? And why is she here?" "Good morning, Richard," Eleanor said coolly. "I'm here with Directors Chen and Grayson to inform you of a leadership change, effective immediately." Richard laughed. "A leadership change? And you brought my former assistant along to witness it?" "Sarah isn't here to witness anything," Eleanor handed him the documents. "She's here to assume her role as interim CEO. Richard's face flushed as he scanned the paperwork. "This is ridiculous. She's a secretary." "Executive assistant," Sarah corrected calmly, "and previously office manager for 3 years, during which time I oversaw a 22% increase in operational efficiency." "Playing with spreadsheets doesn't qualify you to run a company," Richard snapped. "The board would never approve this insanity." "Actually," Ms. Chen interjected, "the executive committee has already approved the interim appointment. A full board vote is scheduled for next week." Richard turned to Robert Grayson. "Robert, we've been friends for 15 years. You can't possibly support this." "I've reviewed the documentation Eleanor provided," Grayson said gravely, "including evidence that you diverted the employee Christmas bonus fund to purchase a vacation property. That's a temporary reallocation and completely within my authority." "Perhaps you should show them your authority, Sarah," Eleanor suggested. Sarah nodded, opening her tablet. "The company bylaws, section 34.2, specifically prohibit reallocation of employee benefit funds without unanimous board approval. Additionally, your claimed client entertainment expenses have increased 340% this year, while client satisfaction scores have dropped 18%. Richard's expression darkened. "You'll be hearing from my attorneys. This ambush is both unprofessional and actionable." "We anticipated that response," Eleanor replied. "Security is waiting to escort you out. Your personal items will be forwarded to your home." "You can't do this to me," Richard shouted as security appeared at the door. "Actually," Sarah said quietly, "it's what you did to me. The difference is, I'm here to build, not destroy." After Richard was escorted out, the board members departed to make calls. Eleanor squeezed Sarah's shoulder before leaving her alone, in what was now her office. Sarah sat behind the imposing desk, running her fingers along its polished surface. The responsibility felt enormous, but so did the opportunity to create the kind of workplace where people like her, underestimated but capable, could thrive. Sarah's first executive meeting revealed the challenge ahead. 8 department heads sat around the conference table, expressions ranging from curious to openly hostile. "Before we begin," Sarah said, "I want to acknowledge this transition is unexpected. I welcome your questions after I outline my initial priorities." Marcus Chen, the CFO, spoke first after her presentation. "With all due respect, Ms. Matthews, these community initiatives sound admirable but expensive." Richard maintained strict cost controls that shareholders appreciated. "I've reviewed the financials, Marcus. Our margins can support these changes, while maintaining profitability. What we can't afford is continuing to lose top talent to competitors." "You've been CEO for 3 days," Marcus countered. "These decisions typically require months of analysis. I've had 5 years to analyze what works and what doesn't at Horizon. I've just lacked the authority to implement changes until now." Outside the meeting, Sarah approached Diane, Richard's former assistant, who had been reassigned to marketing. "Diane, do you have a moment?" "Of course, Ms. Matthews." Her tone was professionally frosty. "I know this transition is difficult. You worked closely with Richard. He valued loyalty. So do I. But I also value honesty and innovation. Your organizational skills are exceptional. Would you consider becoming my executive assistant?" Diane's surprise was evident. "You want me on your team? After I was loyal to Richard?" Loyalty to a person who earned it shows character. I'd rather have that quality supporting me than opposing me. By week 3, Sarah had begun making inroads. Her open-door policy and willingness to listen created cautious optimism among the rank-and-file employees. But resistance remained at the executive level, especially from those Richard had promoted. James Wilson, a middle manager in product development, requested a meeting. "I've been reviewing your proposal from last year," Sarah told him. "The one Richard rejected. Your customer-centric service platform has considerable merit." James blinked in surprise. "You found that?" "Richard said it was too experimental. I'm authorizing a pilot program. You'll lead it." "Why would you champion this now? We don't even know each other. Good ideas shouldn't need personal connections to be recognized." The fragile progress Sarah was building faced its first major test when Meridian Systems, their largest client, threatened to leave. Their CEO had been Richard's golf partner. "He says we're not getting personal attention anymore," Marcus informed, her barely hiding his satisfaction at her predicament. Sarah spent the entire night reviewing Meridian's account history, contracts, and communications. When she hadn't come home by bedtime, Emma called her. "Are you still being the boss, Mom?" "Yes, sweetie. I'm sorry I missed tucking you in." "It's okay. Grandma said you're doing important things now." At midnight, Sarah stared at Emma's photo on her desk. The Meridian presentation was prepared for tomorrow, but at what cost? Richard had missed his son's graduation and boasted about his dedication. Was she becoming what she had despised? Sarah rubbed her tired eyes. There had to be a way to lead with excellence without sacrificing what mattered most. Tomorrow would test not just her business acumen, but her commitment to creating a different kind of workplace, one where success and humanity weren't opposing forces. The Meridian crisis had been successfully navigated, but it had revealed a deeper problem at Horizon. Sarah had toured the empty east wing of their building while thinking about the late nights that took her away from Emma. An idea began to form, one that would address both her personal challenge and a company-wide issue. "We're going to create an on-site childcare center," Sarah announced at the next executive meeting. "The East Wing has been vacant since the downsizing 2 years ago. We'll convert it into a quality care facility for employees' children." Marcus immediately objected. That space was earmarked for potential expansion. The cost of renovation and staffing would be significant. "I've done the calculations," Sarah replied. The tax benefits, reduced absenteeism, and increased retention will offset the costs within 18 months. This isn't a core business function, argued Walter from operations. It's a distraction from our primary objectives. Sarah leaned forward. Our primary objective is sustainable growth through innovation and talent retention. We've lost 12 key employees in the past year. 9 cited work-life balance as their reason for leaving. Diane, now Sarah's trusted assistant, spoke up unexpectedly. Richard rejected similar proposals 3 times. He called family accommodations coddling. And where did that approach lead us? Sarah asked. To declining employee satisfaction and rising turnover costs. Despite continued resistance, Sarah moved forward with the plan, piloting flexible scheduling with her immediate team first. She brought Emma to the newly constructed childcare center, making her commitment visible to everyone. You work here. Now, Mom? Emma asked, exploring the colorful space. I still work in my office, but you'll be right here in the building. We can have lunch together sometimes. Will other kids be here too? That's the plan. Is that okay with you? Emma nodded enthusiastically. It's like having a giant play date while grown-ups do their work stuff. The quarterly board meeting brought the expected challenge. Board member Harrison Wells was particularly critical. These soft initiatives may be fashionable, Ms. Matthews, but they don't drive shareholder value. Sarah distributed comprehensive packets. Then you'll find these numbers interesting. Companies with similar programs show a 24% increase in employee retention and 17% higher productivity. Our implementation costs are front-loaded, while benefits accumulate over time. Numbers can be manipulated, Harrison countered. Richard maintained that work-life separation was cleaner. With respect, that philosophy is outdated. I've included case studies from our industry's top performers. All have family-supportive policies. Eleanor, who had remained quiet, finally spoke. Sarah, what do you say to those who might see this as self-serving, given your own situation as a single mother? I'd say they're partially right, Sarah answered honestly. My experience helps me recognize a business problem others might miss. What Richard saw as my weakness, being a mother with responsibilities beyond work, is actually my strength. I understand what many of our employees need to perform at their best. 6 weeks later, a prominent business publication ran a feature on Horizon's transformation. Applications for employment doubled. 2 clients specifically mentioned the company's progressive policies as factors in their decision to expand contracts. The child care center was at capacity, with a waiting list forming. Employees reported decreased stress and increased job satisfaction. Sarah's empathy, once dismissed as softness by Richard, had become a competitive advantage, proving that understanding human needs wasn't separate from understanding business needs, but essential to it. 6 months passed with remarkable changes at Horizon Enterprises. Employee satisfaction scores had risen by 30%. Client retention reached an all-time high. The company had attracted 3 major new accounts, specifically citing Horizon's innovative workplace culture. Sarah's leadership had transformed more than policies. It had transformed the very spirit of the organization. Third quarter results show a 17% increase in revenue with 14% profit growth. Marcus announced at the executive meeting, no longer the skeptic he once was. The flexible scheduling program has decreased absenteeism by 22%, and our recruiting costs have plummeted. The media attention hasn't hurt either, added James, now heading the expanded innovation team. We've become the case study for progressive workplace practices. The mood in the boardroom shifted instantly when the door opened unexpectedly. Richard Blackwood strode in, followed by 2 men in expensive suits. Sorry to interrupt this mutual admiration society, Richard said, but we have urgent business to discuss. Sarah maintained her composure. Richard, this is a closed meeting. If you'd like to schedule time, that won't be necessary. I've already called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow. As a courtesy, I thought I'd give you advance notice of what's coming. Eleanor, who still attended key meetings as board chair, spoke firmly. On what authority are you calling board meetings, Richard? With the support of these gentlemen, who represent the Altimus Investment Group. They've acquired 7% of Horizon shares and have concerns about the company's direction. The following day, the boardroom was tense as Richard presented his case. The recent positive results are simply the delayed impact of initiatives I put in place before my unjust removal, Richard claimed. While playing daycare center may generate feel-good press, it's unsustainable as a business model. Richard displayed financial projections showing declining profits over the next 3 years. Ms. Matthews' motherly approach to management might work for a small department, but it's inappropriate for a corporation of this size. Sarah listened attentively, noting the flaws in his analysis. When he finished, she addressed the board, calmly. These projections assume our new client acquisitions are one-time events rather than the beginning of a trend. They ignore the reduced turnover costs and productivity gains already documented. Most importantly, they're based on outdated growth models that don't account for our expanded market position. She displayed the correct figures. Our motherly approach, as Mr. Blackwood calls it, has produced concrete results that his leadership never achieved. Richard's face reddened. The board shouldn't be fooled by a few months of beginner's luck. What qualifies an assistant with no business degree to run this company? A woman who couldn't even manage her personal life successfully enough to provide a proper family for her child. A shocked silence fell over the room. Sarah stood, her dignity palpable. I want to thank you, Richard. Thank me, he sputtered. Yes. When you fired me on Christmas Eve, you gave me the greatest professional gift possible. You freed me to help. Create a company where talent matters more than title, where results matter more than rigid rules, and where employees' whole lives are valued. She addressed the board directly. The choice today isn't between Richard's vision and mine. It's between a past that failed us and a future that's already succeeding. The vote was decisive. 10-2 in favor of maintaining Sarah's leadership. Eleanor delivered the final word to Richard. True leadership is not in how much power you claim, but in how much potential you unleash in others. Sarah has unlocked what you suppressed. That's why she's the leader Horizon needs. As Richard stormed out, Sarah felt no triumph, only responsibility to continue proving that compassionate leadership wasn't just morally right, but business smart as well. 1 year after being fired, Sarah stood in the transformed lobby of Horizon Enterprises, welcoming employees and their families to the company's first-ever family Christmas celebration. The once sterile corporate space now featured team achievement walls, innovation displays, and artwork created by children from the on-site care center. I never imagined we'd see kids running through these halls, Marcus said, approaching with his wife and teenage son. I was wrong about your vision, Sarah. Our new financial models are outperforming all projections. The models were your innovation, Marcus. I just created space for you to implement them. Across the room, Diane was confidently briefing new hires. No longer just an assistant, she now headed employee development. Remember when I was so cold to you? Diane laughed when she joined Sarah. I was terrified you'd fire me for being Richard's assistant. Instead, you became one of our strongest voices for change, Sarah replied. James arrived with his innovation team, proudly displaying their newest product prototype. We're getting acquisition offers for this technology alone, he told Sarah. Remember when Richard called these ideas speculative waste? The celebration paused momentarily when an unexpected figure appeared at the entrance. Richard Blackwood stood hesitantly, looking both uncomfortable and humbled. I wasn't sure I'd be welcome, he said quietly when Sarah approached. That depends on why you're here. Not to cause trouble. My consulting firm didn't work out. Turns out my management philosophy wasn't as valuable as I thought. I'm sorry to hear that. Richard shook his head. Don't be. It forced me to reconsider everything. I've been following Horizon's success. What you've built here, it's remarkable. I came to apologize, Sarah. You deserved better than how I treated you. His sincerity surprised her. "Thank you, Richard. Would you like to join us?" "I appreciate that, but no. I just wanted to make amends. I'm starting over. Actually, taking some management classes." He smiled ruefully. "Sometimes we need to lose everything to learn what matters." 2 weeks later, Sarah received the Industry Innovation Leadership Award. Standing at the podium, she reflected on her journey. Leadership isn't about power over others, but service to something larger than yourself. It's about seeing potential where others see limitations. 1 year ago, I was fired on Christmas Eve. What seemed like an ending became a beginning. Not just for me, but for hundreds of people who now bring their whole selves to work. That evening, Sarah and Emma decorated their Christmas tree. Emma carefully hung a handmade ornament, a clay replica of the Horizon building with tiny figures around it. "What's this, sweetie?" Sarah asked. "It's your work family," Emma explained. "Ms. Diane helped me make it. See, there's Marcus and James and Eleanor. And that's me at the daycare center." Sarah blinked back tears. "It's perfect. Remember when you were sad last Christmas? Now everything's better." Sarah hugged her daughter close. "Yes, it is. Sometimes the things that hurt us most lead us exactly where we need to be." The ornament caught the tree lights, glowing warmly, a small but perfect symbol of how life's painful endings often contain the seeds of our most beautiful beginnings, if only we have the courage to nurture them.